Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my ex-wife as +1 to my son's wedding? My son is 22, my daughter is 18. 6 years ago, my daughter caught my wife with another man. She told her brother, who understood what she had witnessed. Then they both came and told me. I verified that it was true, then I divorced my wife. During the divorce hearing, both of them expressed a desire to stay with me, so I was given primary custody, with my ex getting 1 week a month, and she moved in with the other guy. I have done my best to cut my ex out of my life. Our communication is limited to the bare minimum needed to coordinate custody and shared expenses, and I have never talked about our relationship to my kids. Initially, after the divorce, she told me that our kids were giving her hell when it was her custody, and that I needed to talk to them. I sat them down and asked if it was true, and they said they didn't want to stay there. But I explained that it would be best for everyone if they remained civil until they turned 18, so we wouldn't have to go back to court. I didn't get complaints after that, so it seemed to be working. When my son turned 18, he moved back in with me full-time and started college. He graduated now and is getting married in a few months. My daughter turned 18 last summer and moved back in with me full-time too. My ex-wife called me today, and she started crying, saying that she was not invited to my son's wedding. Then she told me that my son hasn't talked to her in over a year. He has still been dropping in after turning 18 to visit his sisters sometimes, but eventually stopped doing that too. Likewise, apparently my daughter stopped talking to her after turning 18 too. My ex-wife asked if I would bring her as my +1 so she could see her son getting married. But I told her that if my son didn't invite her, it wasn't my place to bring her. Then she started accusing me of turning them against her and threatening to take me to court. I just told her that there was no more custody agreement to take to court since both of them are above 18, and hung up. I sat down with both of them later and asked them if they had cut contact with their mother, and they both admitted it. I explained to them that they did not need to do that for my sake, and I still recognize she's their mother. But they both said they had talked about it a lot and their plan was always to hold out until they were 18. But they had no desire to be around her or the other guy because she had destroyed our family. I told them that they're adults, and if that's their decision, I won't pressure them to change it. I was telling my sister what happened, and to my surprise, she said my son wasn't being fair, that I should make him invite his mother to the wedding. Am I the a-hole for refusing the attempt? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She had 6 years to figure out how to at least repair enough damage that her kids wouldn't go no contact the moment they were able. Sounds like the opposite happened. Not the a-hole. Your son should consider hiring security to ensure she doesn't crash the wedding or even come as your sister's +1. Not the a-hole, but your sister is. I don't know what is with people pushing family members to reconcile simply because they are blood related, but it's something that needs to stop. People are allowed to choose who they want in their lives, and just because someone helped create you doesn't mean you have to choose them. You should forgive family when they do something inconvenient or annoying. You can forgive family for doing something mildly stupid or embarrassing and they're sorry. But a-holes, especially unrepentant ones, do not get a free pass just because you're related. Not the a-hole. It seemed like you did your best to encourage them to have some contact with their mother. But they are adults now and can decide whether they want to or not, and they clearly decided. Next story. Am I the a-hole for insisting on meeting in public for custody exchanges? I, 31 male, am divorced from my ex, 33 female, for several years now. 50-50 custody of my 2 children, 13 male and 9 female, though it's defaulted to me having them 80% of the time since the divorce. The past few years have been littered with false CPS reports and them coming to my house talking to my children, just for a few weeks to go by and everything is closed and we move on, just for it to happen again. Then, we moved a few months ago. I disclosed my address to the court, and all parties involved except my ex. Since we moved, the CPS visits have stopped completely, but I keep in touch with a caseworker who's helped me with finding my son help with his mental health. Everything has been kosher for months. We've been using the school schedule for custody exchanges as it makes things easier. Then, I recently found out from my niece, ex's bio family, that my ex weaponized CPS to make my life hell. So now with the holiday, MLK landing on an exchange day, my ex is demanding to drop them off at my house. I've told her we can meet at a police department and do a secure exchange. There's marked parking spots with surveillance cameras and everything, and she's refusing, saying that I'm hiding things and she just needs to know. Am I the a-hole for insisting on all meetings and interaction be through monitored channels? Not the a-hole, and that is a very smart thing to do. Make sure you let the caseworker know that CPS calls coincidentally ended when the ex didn't know where you were. When you meet at a police department, make sure you don't go straight home. She or one of her friends may be following you to see where you live. I wish you the best. We're going grocery shopping first and maybe a pack of magic cards for my son. I considered I may be followed already, but I really do appreciate the forethought. If the kids have cell phones, check the location permissions in apps like Find My iPhone or any social media with location sharing. Location services are only on for Google services, which is connected to my account so I can find their devices. Had an incident where we had to find his phone by a friend's house last year, and since then I've been meticulous. Not the a-hole. Your ex has proven her egregious use of CPS, that she cannot be trusted. She's not looking out for your children. She's looking for ways to hurt you. Since this in turn hurts your children, continue to protect both of them and yourself. Keep meeting in public and keep your address private as long as possible. If there's any way to file charges against her or to get her to face consequences for her actions, please do so. Your ex is not only hurting you, but also children who genuinely need the intervention of CPS whose time and resources your ex continues to misuse. Unfortunately, misusing resources with CPS isn't chargeable because it's not emergency services. This is pretty much verbatim what the police department told me, but I'm pretty sure the officer just didn't want to get involved. Not the a-hole. I would normally say exes should know where one another lives, but this is no ordinary case. Keep meeting in public. When she complains, ask her what she is hiding. I actually just texted her this, and she responded with whatever. So I'm 99% sure this is a game to her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother be part of the family business? First, some important info. I, 44 male, have a younger brother, 41 male, and we are the only children. Also, we are not from the US or any Western country. My father passed away almost 10 years ago. Since our mother was also dead, we divided his estate equally. His estate was a farm of 12 hectares, 30 acres. Back then, it had a house, a barn, a pond, wheat fields, and olive fields. We were both working office jobs in the city and did not want to be farmers. But after my dad died, my wife convinced me to quit, buy out my brother, and start a business with her, as she had degrees in business and hospitality, while I was working in accounting. And that's what I did. I bought out my brother at market price. After that, my wife and I transformed the farm, got government subsidies to make our farm more sustainable, transformed the area by the pond into a garden and romantic strolling route and a fishing spot. The closest farm plots were made into a pedagogic farm, and some made available to guests to rent, built small houses, built a stable, and bought some horses. We made it into a retreat where you can either spend a day, act as a farmer and have some authentic food, or rent a cabin and try to farm life. The rest of the farm was left to farmhands. Since we are barely 2 hours outside city limits, it became a booming business. We were booked solid all year. We have schools coming for tours, activities every weekend, couples throwing their weddings here. And after the first 5 years, we were able to pay off our debt and are making great money. My brother used his money to buy a house, 2 cars, and on his children's schooling. And they are living well. I would say upper middle class by my country's standards, but nothing like me and my family. Now he says that he wants in on the business, that what he was paid was not fair. I told him no, that he got what his land was worth back then. Now he is no longer talking to me and he is the only family I have left. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He got market value for his half. He used it up while you invested your time and money and now you are getting your return on investment. No need to feel guilty. Right. If it's the other way around and OP's business tanked, he would not have the right to ask his brother for money because he overpaid. Good on you, OP. His jealousy is not your responsibility, and you can focus on the family you have, and not the family who does not want to be there. Not the a-hole. The only way I could side with your brother would be if you took advantage of his grieving and bought a share. I do doubt this as a possibility, considering it must have taken some time for your wife to convince you to give up your career to suddenly become a farmer. Also, it's been 10 years, and he hasn't mentioned any regret during that time. I think it's clear your brother is having money troubles or perhaps a midlife crisis. Either way, he got a fair deal for his share. If he wants back in, he can offer to repurchase his half. Opie says his brother is upper middle class, so I think it's regret for missing out on the opportunity. If Opie never told him he and his wife had big plans when they bought out the brother, I could see why he feels a little resentful. That's pure speculation though. I asked about it elsewhere, so maybe Opie will clarify. But brother wasn't forced to sell. I told him about our plans, but not in detail since we only had vague ideas then. Not the whole. If he had invested his half of the money into literally anything else, would he share the fruits of that investment with you? I don't think so. You had all the work transforming the place and you had all the risk of it not working too. Also, it definitely sounds like you invested some of your own money too to make all that possible. He wants all the fruits of the labor without doing any of the labor. I get that you don't want to lose him, so maybe there is a calm way to talk about all of this? With a mediator present or something like that. He needs to understand that you invested the money and succeeded. But I mean, you could have failed too. And if you did, would he just give you money from his half? Last story. Am I the a-hole? Active duty sister-in-law is mad her brother and I are having another baby. Background. My sister-in-law is a divorced single mother to a 2-year-old and is on active duty. She used to have friends that she would regularly leave her child with instead of us, because she also needed someone to feed and watch her 3 dogs, 4 indoor cats, and 3 to 4 outdoor cats. We watched the animals and a friend watched the kid. On multiple occasions, when this friend would fall through on childcare, she would call us the day off, and we would rearrange our lives, fight traffic, and get her kid because we wanted to help. When she has long underways, we made it clear we cannot watch her kid because my husband is also active duty and at work. I cannot drop my own kid off at school and drive 45 minutes to an hour across town to the military base and fight traffic to drop hers off and then get to work on time. Her child goes to the military base daycare facility, while my child goes to a public school 10 to 15 minutes from my house in the opposite direction of the base. His hours don't always allow him the ability to drop her kid off and pick her up. As for the current situation, my husband and I invited my sister-in-law and niece to our child's birthday party on Saturday. We also informed her we were newly pregnant again and mentioned that we had not told my in-laws yet. We assumed she would be excited to be an aunt again. She initially agreed, but my husband and I both noticed a tone change on the phone. We both assumed she had been just annoyed at her little one, since we could hear her trying to shop with her when we called. Later in the evening, she texts my husband and says she isn't coming to the party. He asks why, and she states that we had struggled to help her out with her child and having her a few times a week, but now we're having a whole baby we need to care for 24/7, and that she's hurt and needs some space and time. Of course, I personally could not leave this be and let her know her comments were selfish and did not depict the entire picture since we have repeatedly cared for her child on numerous occasions, sometimes with no notice. We have also cared for her animals. It has been made very clear I logistically can't drop ours off and hers off on 2 different sides of town. We have also cared for her animals. She's a 15 to 20 minute one-way drive for us, and sometimes we made multiple trips a day to her home to care for the animals. She snapped at my husband over text. She was angry he had told me what she had said. My husband explained to her that I asked why, and that he does not lie to me, so he told me what was going on. He then had a bad feeling at that point and called mother-in-law, only to find out that my sister-in-law had called and told her we were pregnant. My husband is also livid she told my in-laws about our pregnancy before we could. We were planning on announcing the second one in a cute way, and she's told that from us. Am I the a-hole for saying something to my sister-in-law to spark off this craziness? Should I have let it be? Just wondering what this woman's plan was when she decided to have a kid. Not the a-hole. She had a husband but got divorced. Took all 5 animals they had at a time. One that I know she got after she was speaking with a lawyer to get divorced. Then continued to get more animals. I'm not sure on the plan either. All that on top of being on active duty? Shaking my head. Definition of biting off more than she can chew. The hubs and I discuss this exact thing regularly. It's impulsive and doesn't make sense. I have a few animals as well, but I work from home and I'm almost always at home. Lol. The animals are my quirky co-workers at this point. Good grief. I am a single mom with 0 family around. Having any help at all would be amazing to me. Your sister-in-law sounds so entitled. Let your mother-in-law handle her and you guys enjoy the new addition to your family, not the a-hole. Thanks. We are super happy. I respect the single mom struggle as I do it when a husband deploys. My house gets a little messy, my Orkie's grooming appointments get a little infrequent, but my kid is clean, fed, and happy, and I'm making it work. I generally don't ask others to help me because I also don't have a large support system here. Talk to the ombudsman at your husband's command. They'll help you meet other wives and set up a support system to help while your husband is deployed. That's their job. Update. Ex-wife opened 2 credit cards in my name in the amount of $6,000. She is threatening to withhold my visitation rights for our son if I turn her in. Original post. This is a sad situation, but after my divorce, I ended up moving about 30 miles away where I bought a house and got a job transfer. The divorce was finalized about 4 years ago. She got primary custody as she lives in a school district, though I get most weekends and holidays. We've been fairly cordial about it and it's been working for a while. Eventually, I'd like to get to a 50-50 as she'll be moving to a different school district once he hits high school shortly, and I just move into that district. My problem is that my ex has opened up a couple of credit cards in my name. I had no idea this was happening until I received a letter from a collection agency. It was pretty obvious she was the one who opened the accounts, as the address on the accounts are hers, and it looks like the statements are from mainly where she shops. When I dropped our son off on Monday, I told her I found the accounts, and I'd have to go to the police unless she paid them off completely right away. She denied it at first, then said if I went to the police, she'd disallow visitation for safety reasons. Unfortunately, she'd be able to do this, and has done so in the past, requiring me to go back to court with my lawyer to force her to follow the parenting agreement. That's how I gained all holidays shortly after the divorce, basically as a punishment for failing to comply with the parenting order, but still allowing her to be the custodial parent. I don't want my son to have to go through this, but I am certainly not taking the hit to my credit for what she's doing. I'm probably going to make the report, but is there anything else I'd be missing here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Turn her in, and use that to get full custody. Family courts tend to frown upon crime. It would also be good to try to get her threats of parental alienation on video. Talk to your lawyer and start gathering evidence. Wait until he finds out that she used the kid's social security number to open more cards. If she hasn't yet, she will if he doesn't go after her. First off, I love how she went from denying it to threatening. Great level of trustworthiness right there. Second, literally treat her like anyone else. Someone committed fraud against you. Report it and take care of yourself. Third, drag her back to court for damages and request the parenting agreement be amended. It's clear she can't be trusted with finances, and that should be grounds for losing some parenting rights. If she's violated the parenting agreement before, point out this isn't the first time she's made executive decisions. The brain cells that think committing fraud somehow gives you legal leverage is hilarious. Now for the first update. There's some good and some bad, unfortunately. Since this started several months ago, she has been horrible. I went to the police regarding the credit card accounts. Getting the report was painless, and they said it happens a lot. Both of the credit cards have dropped off my credit report. My credit is back to normal, and I've set up a credit monitor, and to make sure it doesn't happen again. It doesn't look like she's going to be prosecuted for opening the cards in my name. I was told when I made the report that it would be up to the credit card companies to cooperate with the prosecutors if they wanted to go through with fraud charges. Apparently, they don't cooperate most of the time, but I can still ask the county to prosecute on behalf of myself, which I did. In November, I got a form letter saying they wouldn't be prosecuting my case. I asked a criminal defense lawyer I know about it, and he said the county maybe goes forward with 10% of criminal cases where people get arrested. It's nearly zero where there is no probable cause for an arrest. He said his job is basically just working out deals for clearly guilty people. He also said to let it go at this point, so I've come to terms with the fact that she's not going to have criminal charges, and probably not even a lawsuit. She also did exactly what she said she would do and stopped letting me see our son. I've documented every single instance, about 30 total, since September that she's failed to follow our court-ordered custody agreement. I finally got her served at work. That's another thing I don't like about family courts. And she claimed I was abusive and manipulative. I had the police report for the credit cards and basically said the visitation violation started the week after I made the report. The judge basically gave her a final chance to follow the order before he would grant an alteration, and she'd possibly face criminal charges. The first child exchange after the hearing a couple of weeks ago, she said she needs more child support and alimony, asking for an extra $1,500 a month. I told her absolutely not. Last week I went to pick him up. She never showed up, and I got a documentation number from the police. Next day, new account detected email. I got the account canceled before the card was even sent to her address. I froze my credit, made another report, waiting for the will not prosecute letter. She's failed to show up with him ever since. Got her served at work, and our new hearing is in a week and a half. I know eventually things are going to work out, but she's really testing my nerves. This is exactly why credit card fraud is so rampant. Nothing is ever done about it. What's with exes trying to pull some of the dumbest things ever? It's pathetic and embarrassing on their behalf. It's because there are no consequences for her actions. She's opened 3 credit cards in OP's name. No consequence, just a free $6,000 bonus. She's ignored the custody order and received multiple warnings from the judge, but no consequences. In the meantime, she's caused OP so much trouble and headaches, with almost no effort. That's likely the end goal. It will continue until she actually faces some form of consequence for her actions. I wonder what he'd find if he checked his kid's credit. If she did it to him, there is no way she didn't also do it to her son. Poor kid's future credit is probably already toast. Now for the second update. It's hard to say if this is good or bad, but I'm going to take this as a win. My ex-wife didn't show up to court, and the judge granted my request for what amounted to a major alteration of the custody agreement. We have another hearing in a couple of weeks, which is to confirm the new order and give her a chance to defend herself. I will be the primary custodian, and my now wife and I couldn't be happier about it. The judge also ordered my ex to bring our son to the hearing, something she's never had to do before. Last Wednesday, I got a call from DCFS saying my son was at the hospital, but only as a precaution to get checked out. I left work and got there about 45 minutes later, just as he was about to be cleared. I hadn't seen him in person in a few weeks, and we both cried. DCFS said my ex and her boyfriend got into a physical domestic, and during it, my son got bumped and fell into a coffee table. He ended up needing 2 stitches on the side of his head. He got a CT and everything was fine. He said he didn't want to live with my ex anymore because he doesn't like the boyfriend who moved in. CPS and I agreed as part of the safety plan, he would be staying with me until the next court date. Both my ex and her boyfriend were taken to jail, both released the next day, and it looks like they aren't being charged. He's 12 and pretty resilient. He explained that my ex and the boyfriend argue a lot, but that was the first time it got physical. I drive him back and forth 30-ish miles for school every day, and the school knows not to allow my ex to pick him up, which she tried to do on Tuesday. She has texted me a couple of times asking to talk, and I told her we will deal with this in court. I wish I didn't get him like this, but I know he's safe, and it's starting to look pretty good for me on the legal side of things. Also, no surprise, but no charges are being filed for the new account she tried to open several weeks ago. Edit. I'll clear up a couple of things here. 1. I would love to press charges on my ex for either keeping my son from me or identity theft. The prosecutor's office here just straight up isn't interested. I've been completely open and helpful. The original police report spells it out perfectly. The county just doesn't want to bother with it. 2. I've checked my son's credit. Thankfully, the only thing there is the credit card I added him as an authorized user on. My lawyer told me freezing his credit could backfire if my ex doesn't have the PIN, as the court might look at it as finance-related. I currently monitor both mine and his credit with the credit alert service recommended in the original post several months back. That's how I found out about the newest account she tried to open. It saved my butt. 3. I already pay for everything related to my son. Clothes, tuition, sports, everything. Which is why it chapped my butt that she wanted more. Ugh, I remember this from last month. I hate it for the kid, that it took him literally getting injured for anyone to do anything about this. But at least he's safely with his dad now. Also laughing my freaking butt off at her pestering him to talk about this. Oh, like you didn't? It's kind of a crappy thing for me to say, but it's kind of a good thing the son got hurt, and only mildly. That's only going to help OP in court. Yeah, I'll take a couple stitches and a scan in exchange for getting the heck out of that house. Totally worth it. The way she's behaving, I wouldn't be surprised if the ex and her new boyfriend were involved in drugs. With her being so desperate for money, she tried the credit card fraud again after being found out the first time. I hope OP will be able to keep full custody of his son, with perhaps supervised visitation only. I wonder if CPS will mandate drug tests for her, or if OP can ask for that in family court. I'm not familiar with the protocol with CPS, but with OP's luck with the legal system so far, my guess would be something like, well, substances weren't explicitly involved on the altercation, so we can't mandate tests, or something. OP can request it, but it doesn't guarantee it'll be granted. I had my ex's live-in girlfriend drug tested. It was costly, and the order was she test clean or couldn't be alone with my kids. Second story. Found out my husband, 26 male, has secretly spent all our savings. Don't know if I, 27 female, can trust him anymore. Original post. My husband and I have been married for almost 2 years. Tonight, we had the worst fight we've ever had, and I'm seriously considering spending some time apart. We're both hardworking and make pretty good money, especially for our age. We paid for our wedding ourselves, and 4 years ago, we bought and renovated our own home. Money has never really been an issue in our relationship until recently. One of the reasons we've done so well is because we've always been diligent about saving. When we were aggressively saving for our wedding and home, we put away 30% of every paycheck. After the wedding, we agreed to a more manageable 20% savings rate to build up our emergency fund and plan for the future. Kids, a new house, a new car, etc. I've stuck to that commitment. In fact, when my husband's car died unexpectedly, I covered the full cost of a replacement without needing a car payment. When our HVAC system failed, I paid for that too. Despite these big expenses, I've still managed to keep up my savings and have a solid emergency fund. Tonight, I found out my husband has saved nothing. We've always had a system. His steady paycheck covers our monthly bills, and since I freelance, my income goes toward bigger expenses, like student loan payments and unexpected costs. It's worked well, or so I thought. When I asked him why he hasn't saved anything, his excuse was that he's always paying off the credit card, which, for the record, only he uses. I went through our budget, and based on his income, he should have at least $3,000 left over every month after covering expenses. So I asked, where is that money going? He had no answer. So I checked his statements, and what I found was infuriating. Nothing that suggests cheating, gambling, or anything extreme, but reckless, obscene spending. We've had serious conversations about his spending before, and almost a year ago, I made it very clear that he needed to stick to our financial plan. Not only did he break that promise, but he's also somehow spent more than he earns, dipping into our savings. I'm ambitious and goal-driven. I dream big, and we've always talked about our future, where we see ourselves in 5 or 10 years. He's been especially eager to start trying for a baby, and while I've been on the fence, I recently came around to the idea. Until tonight when I realized we have almost no savings. Now the timeline for having a child, delayed. The plan to move out of a town we both hate, out the window. I feel completely blindsided and betrayed. He's made multiple promises he hasn't kept, and when I confronted him, his solution was to put half of his yearly bonus into savings. Even though we already agreed that bonus would go toward paying off his massive student loans. At this point, I don't just feel disappointed, I feel disrespected. I don't understand why he went behind my back like this, or why he thought I wouldn't notice. I've lost so much trust in him, and I don't know how to move forward from here. Would time apart help? Can trust even be rebuilt after something like this? I'm at a complete loss. Now for the top advice before reading the update. It's hard to respond, given you haven't said what he's been blowing thousands on every month without that being noticeable to you. Something's weird about this story. Honestly, it doesn't completely make sense to me either. When I went through the statements, it was just a ton of random purchases. Tech, eating out, ordering lunch for work almost every day, spotting his siblings' money for things, impulse buys, Costco trips that added up way more than I realized, and just general mindless spending. Nothing huge on its own, but over time, it drained everything. I trusted that he was sticking to our agreement, so I wasn't monitoring it closely, which is why this all hit me so hard. Reading what you wrote, something you said stood out to me. One of the reasons we've done so well is because we've always been diligent about saving. When we were aggressively saving for our wedding and home, we put away 30% of every paycheck. When I compare those statements to everything else you have written, it seems that you should have been using I rather than we while writing. You and your husband are not on the same page financially. Financial issues are the #1 cause of divorce, for a reason that you're currently discovering. This is a big deal, and there are no simple solutions if you want to remain married to this guy. If you take time apart from your husband, it would really be for you to give yourself some space to think and weigh your options. I see couples counseling, a possible financial literacy course, though beware of the investment or quick riches ones, and a long hard think about if you want to remain in this marriage as the most likely options. Because you are closer to the situation, it's highly likely that if you take a breather for yourself, you will think of other options. Bare minimum, start thinking in terms of getting yourself out of the town you hate and not relying on your husband to help you with your goals. If he grows up enough to actually help, then it's a bonus. Now for the last update. I wanted to come back and give an update since a lot of people had strong opinions about this. First off, my husband is not some reckless mooch, and this isn't a case of me supporting him while he blows through money. He actually covers most of our monthly bills, while I handle the bigger but less frequent expenses, like quarterly and annual payments. That setup works for us, since my income isn't the same every month. He's also an incredibly generous person. He loves picking up the tab for friends, buying gifts just to make people smile, and always putting others first. That generosity is one of the things I love most about him, but when you aren't keeping track, it adds up fast. And for those assuming I don't make real money because I run my own business and do freelance work, this is my first year going full-time instead of working a 9 to 5 and then grinding on my business at night. I wouldn't have had the courage to do that without him, and I never would have made the leap if I didn't have a partner with a steady paycheck, even though my business has been doing really well. That said, I know I've failed as a partner too. He wasn't upfront with me when he started struggling to pay off his credit cards, and while he absolutely should have told me, I should have checked in more too. I thought he was spending the way he was, because he was still able to while keeping up with our savings. Instead, he was dipping into our savings to cover his credit cards, and instead of telling me, he tried to handle it himself. He knows that's not okay, but I also need to make sure he feels comfortable coming to me before things get to this point again. To clear up a few things, no, he is not trying to trap me with a baby. We both want kids. It's just about timing. No, I am not unemployed. I run a successful business and do freelance work. Just because I don't get paid on a bi-weekly schedule doesn't mean I don't make good money. Yes, small purchases add up fast. Lunches out, spotting friends, video games, gifts for family, random Amazon orders. It all snowballed into $3,000 a month before he even realized what was happening. Moving forward, we agreed to close most of his credit cards, put his full paycheck into our joint account instead of just half, so we both have visibility on spending, and stick to a firm budget that still gives him personal spending money. We haven't decided yet if we'll fully merge everything, but we are going to be a lot more open and accountable with each other. At the end of the day, this isn't a deal breaker for me. I love my husband, and I know he loves me. We both want this to work, and we are both putting in the effort to make sure it does. Thanks to everyone who gave helpful advice. Hopefully, this is the last time we ever have to have this fight.